What's up, guys? Magic Knives here, and this is part 3 of my match as Nick Kyrgios versus Roger Federer. Hope you enjoyed the start of the second set, and it's gonna be an interesting one. You'll see it get pretty tight towards the end and whatnot. So, but it'll come in multiple parts for this one, so it's not the full ending as of yet. So. But unfortunately, I had to do a commentary about this. As you all know, there was a recent shooting that happened in the States, in Atlanta, and it was a white dude, and I'm not gonna even mention his name because I frankly don't even know it, and I don't think I even want to know it or see his face. But the fact is that he ended up killing 8 people, and 6 of them were Asian women. And immediately, this whole thing became an anti-Asian racism issue. And it's something that it turns out ever since the start of this whole pandemic, the amount of racism that Asians have been getting have increased because people blame this whole COVID thing on China and Asians for starting this whole thing, just simply because it originated in China. And now the Asian culture is just getting so much backlash, so much racist remarks from people, mainly white people, obviously, but just so much hate, and it's really disgusting and heartbreaking that it has to be like this for us during a worldly crisis and pandemic, when we're all suffering the same as billions of people around the world right now are. And what this man did, just committed a terrible act that didn't solve anything. Like this, in the end, this just proves that we, in recent years, we had the Black Lives Matter movement that took the world by storm last year. Even during the height of the pandemic last year, people still marched around to raise awareness and fight against police brutality in the wake of George Floyd. And even in the midst of a pandemic, people were not going to let police brutality and racism towards blacks prevail. And now this has happened with the Asian community. Asian racism obviously does not get as much attention, and as opposed to blacks, but it's all the same. Whether it's racism against black people, Asians, in the end it's all the same. It's all the same hatred, just because of our color, just because the skin we live in and what we look like. I feel like as an Asian society, we've dealt with our own challenges and issues throughout history as far as racism goes. We were slaves when building the Pacific Railway or stuff, and we were just always we were always forced to work under the power of the British government. Growing up, Hong Kong obviously being a British colony back in the old days. I mean, now China's communist, which, I mean, goes to show, like, when when a country is being, or society is being oppressed for so long, eventually they just become the bad guy, the bigger bad guy, by becoming a communist country, you know? So, I mean that's a totally different issue, but like, as far as Asian racism goes, it's a real thing. It is definitely a real thing. I've never had to deal with like very extreme circumstances. Of course, I have always been, bullied or just made fun of when I was a kid growing up, just because I was an Asian. You always get like, Asian remarks that just weren't always the nicest thing to say to an Asian. But now that this event has happened, it's definitely sparked the awareness of Asian hatred and just anti-Asian racism as a whole, which it's really sad that something like this has to be sparked with a tragedy. Whether it was this same thing with in the events of George Floyd and past victims of police brutality and just hatred in general, and racial profiling and whatnot. I mean, this was obviously, again, a completely different circumstance in comparison to the Black Lives Matter movement, but the thing that surprises me is the fact that the media does not showcase this as a hatred crime. Like, all they said was that was that 8 people got shot and killed, and like, that's it. They didn't bother to say about the fact that 6 of the 8 victims were Asians, and the fact that they were Asian women that got killed, and they were just these innocent people that got killed from the sky. It just baffled me as much as it did the thousands of people that I saw posting about this and trying to speak out about anti-Asian racism. And like, the sad thing about this is a little bit about guns now that I have to briefly mention, is that the guy bought the gun legally and he passed the background check. Now, this is just something that Cole Noir briefly addressed in one of his recent videos. I'll leave a link in the description about it. But the fact is he got the gun legally and he passed the background check, which just proves that even if you have background checks available or in place, it's not going to stop everybody. And the fact is that these victims were unable to protect themselves from something like this. And you know what? It sucks to come to the real fact that something like this would happen, and when it comes to something that's as evil and has so much hatred for something like this, it sucks that when you have background checks or something like this, you never would want to have to be in a position where you would have to defend your life for something like this. But that is the reality, and especially for black people and for Asians. Like, just because you put in background checks, it's not going to be enough to stop evil people committing crimes like this. So, I mean, it's a shame that these people weren't able to protect themselves, or any of them had a gun. But we have to speak out about this to hopefully raise awareness on anti-Asian racism, and just please keep please continue to give people the right to defend themselves from events like this. I hope to see you guys in my future videos. Let me know what your thoughts are in the comments below. Take care, guys.